That's the solution to the problem.
Yeah, I mean, but, right, this isn't disagreeing with what you just said, but I mean, it's sort of in the same vein, right? It seems to me that what capitalism does, often people bring out high school, public education in general, it's just numbing people up, not teaching them critical thinking skills so they can push a button all day for the rest of their life. But even in the same sense, right, higher education seems to also pump out certain functions for capitalism, such as specialized labor, business majors to run businesses. And so, yeah, when capitalism is like, oh shit, we need more of these, like philosophy programs, women's studies, like, they're not necessarily things that capitalism needs. Like, philosophy, it seems to me, is a very thing that reproduces itself within the academic sphere. It sort of gets passed down within that frame. So it's like philosophy teachers train to be philosophy teachers to replace themselves. It's not like, hey, or unless they go to law school, which is cool to an extent. But yeah, I mean, this is the very thing, right? We see capitalism saying, okay, what we need out of the universities is this, not this. So that's sort of a valid criticism you think?
No, I think that's right on. I think that the people that run the education system are the same people that run the government and the army and everything else, and they have an agenda and a goal, and whatever doesn't fit into that, they're happy to see go.
Do you think that that's why, I mean, we as a society are getting less intelligent? I mean, Americans are becoming less intelligent.
Relative to the rest of the world, yeah. I mean, education in this country seems to me like they teach people.
As a senior here, basic geography.
Yeah.
Basic geography. Find Africa on a map. And a lot of them can't do it.
I mean, here's the thing. We table all day at the RSU sometimes, and we have to deal with bad history all the time. So, you definitely feel it too.
No, and on top of that, if you go to the high schools, especially the high schools in oppressed communities, you'll see a lot more military recruiters and college recruiters.
Especially here.
So, these ROTC programs and stuff like that, they're going to enforce that a lot of people aren't going to have opportunities to succeed, and if they're not going to be into a cubicle, they're going to go fight in Afghanistan or Iraq.
There aren't any cubicles left.
Right. So if you can't get employed, you get deployed.
Right.
That's the way it goes.
Right.
Well, I'd like to shift the discussion maybe historically to, like, say, the Soviet Union, for instance, like, right, when the Bolsheviks actually seized the government. They instituted a lot of literacy programs to bring the peasantry and the workers up to an education level. So do you know of any other historical examples of socialism actually bringing about education, bringing out other fundamental rights?
China
with, obviously, too.
China today also, increasing, you've got a country that has prioritized developing its productive forces and becoming a modern country. And the way to do that is to train people and to be technicians and engineers. I think the Soviet Union in the 30s is a very good example of an outstanding education system. You think of the Soviet people, and you think of people that like ballet and like to read. That's the way it is. That's the culture that was enforced in the Soviet Union, and in other socialist countries, to the extent that it's possible. These are countries that are coming from a tremendous material deficit because they've suffered from resource robbery by the imperialists for hundreds of years. Are doing the best they can to uplift people and develop education programs that really teach people their history and serve them.
Doesn't that, cut out, there are several, if you look at Sweden, and if you look at some of the other countries that are socialist, they're doing well. They're doing very well. They have socialized medicine. They have resources. A lot of them run on cleaner technology than we do. They're doing incredibly well.
Those countries, in my opinion, have a better form of capitalism than we do, but I don't think they have socialism. They still have deep economic crises that affect them. And when those economic crises hit, especially, the way that those countries, the Scandinavian countries, developed into a better, kinder, gentler kind of pink capitalism was to create buffer states against the Soviet Union. And in that sense, the idea is that if you have brutal imperialist American style mechanized capitalism on the one hand, it turns everybody into a cog in a machine. And then you have Soviet socialism that guarantees everybody a right to a job, education, healthcare, and housing, and food. You have to have something in between those polar opposites, and that's the function that the Scandinavian social democracies had, was to say, okay, well look, we can actually reform capitalism enough to answer a lot of these problems. But now that the Soviet Union is gone, the Scandinavian countries are actually, they're cutting out their social programs in the way that even the U.S. wants to do.
They are?
They are.
I thought that there was a much fairer distribution of wealth.
There is.
And that there was, I mean, when you say pink capitalism, a softer capitalism, what do you mean?
I mean that, they've put in a ton of valuable welfare reforms into their government, but their government and their economic system is still controlled by a capitalist class who own the means of production, and not by the working class, who are still organizing unions and are still fighting back against cuts, just like we are. But that's a bit of a tangent.
How can we get a living wage? That's what I want to know. How can we
get educated? But of course, to get educated, you need to show where to
I'm in a ton of debt. I'm in a ton of debt. I'm educated. I don't make a living wage.
That's fine. I mean, me and Greg actually have the joke of what's my student loan program. It's like revolutionary communism.
Okay.
If we have a revolution, you don't have to pay back your student loans.
We're going to have to organize and fight for it. They're not going to give us anything.
But like putting people in this tremendous amount of debt so that they have to work menial jobs. I mean, I joke that like my psychology degree made me a well-educated bartender because that's what it did for several years.
Yeah.
And I made more money.
I mean,
I made more money being a bartender that I would have been able to do without my expensive education. I'm not the only one, and the thing is, like, they're telling us maybe sometime in the future we'll give more grants to people, we'll give more opportunities to people, but what about the people who are already indebted for their entire life for their education? What about us?
Well, I mean, from the capitalist point of view, the 15% unemployed, and some places even 30% unemployed, people who are working low-wage jobs are driving down wages across the board so that the capitalists make more profit. The reality is they don't care about you or me or any of us. And if we're going to be dependent upon them, we're not going to get what we want.
But what kind of reform are we looking for people who already are in debt? I'm talking about the collective we in here. What kind of things are we putting in place to ensure that people aren't indebted their entire lives for their education who are already in debt?
You teach here, right?
Yes.
Do you belong to a teachers union?
I don't.
That's what we need to do. This is the thing. If you and a lot of other teachers are massively in debt and get paid nothing, then it seems that what you need to do is organize together with all those other teachers who are getting screwed into a union that is strong, militant, and under your control, and then fight for a living wage.
The problem with that is that if you even whisper that U word that you used, that's a naughty word here. And because they have the right to just not hire you, just not pick up your contract. The next semester, I would be out. I would be out if I even said something that rhymed with that word.
Well,
technically that's illegal.
Technically it is, but there are a lot of illegal things that happen.
Sure.
Technically, we shouldn't have a wage gap.
But so the point is, we can't be cowed by their willingness to do illegal things.